The unexpected encounter. In the year 2154, humanity had become an undeniable force in the galaxy. From the depths of space to the outermost reaches of the universe, human ingenuity and determination had carved a path that few alien species could ignore. It wasn't just about advanced technology or sheer numbers. It was humanity's boundless creativity and resilience that had earned respect across the stars. Daniel Wright sat in the cockpit of the Exodus, a human vessel currently exploring an uncharted star system. He was a seasoned pilot with over 20 years of experience in space exploration. His mission had been straightforward: survey the newly discovered planets and gather data. But nothing in his career had prepared him for the strange signal they picked up on the outskirts of the system. At first, it was just a faint blip on the radar, something they had all written off as interference from nearby asteroids. But as they approached the source, the signal grew clearer, and to their astonishment, it was a communication, an intelligent one, encoded in a language they had never encountered before. This wasn't just an accidental anomaly, it was deliberate. "Captain, we need to investigate," Daniel said, his voice steady but filled with curiosity. The captain, a grizzled veteran of deep space expeditions named Kara Lark, eyed the radar screen. The signal was coming from a massive, hidden object orbiting a distant planet. It was unlike any ship or structure they had ever seen, an enormous, sleek metallic sphere, faintly glowing as if alive. "Prepare for a closer look," Kara commanded, her tone as calm as ever, despite the weight of the unknown hanging in the air. As they approached the object, the Exodus was suddenly rocked by an intense gravitational pull. The crew braced themselves as the ship's controls became sluggish and the lights flickered. Daniel fought to regain control, steering the ship as best as he could, but the pull was relentless. "Warning! Gravitational anomalies detected. We're being pulled in," the ship's AI warned urgently. "Everyone hold on," Kara shouted, as the ship was inexorably drawn closer to the mysterious sphere. Despite their best efforts, the Exodus was being dragged toward it, like a fly caught in a spider's web. And then, as quickly as the gravitational pull had come, it stopped. The ship was suspended just outside the sphere, and the crew found themselves staring at a breathtaking sight. A vast doorway appeared in the side of the metallic object, its edges glowing with a soft, pulsating light. Daniel's heart raced. He knew what this meant. This was an invitation. But from whom? And what kind of civilization would send such a signal across the stars, leading the human ship to their doorstep? "We need to go in," Daniel said, his voice filled with awe and trepidation. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Kara stood silent for a moment, her face illuminated by the glow of the sphere. She wasn't one to take risks without careful consideration, but even she couldn't deny the excitement that thrummed through her veins. "Agreed, but we do it carefully," prepared the crew for a potential first contact scenario. The team suited up, readying themselves for what lay ahead. Daniel and Kara exchanged glances before making their way to the airlock. The unknown was both terrifying and exhilarating. Humanity had faced dangers before, but never quite like this. As they stepped through the airlock and into the unknown, they couldn't help but feel the weight of history. This was a turning point. No longer would humanity be just a rising force in the galaxy. This moment would define their future, for better or worse. The interior of the sphere was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls were smooth, metallic, and gleamed with an otherworldly luster. It was almost as if the structure was alive, breathing with energy. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the sphere, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The silence was deafening, broken only by their footsteps echoing against the strange, metallic floors. Then, without warning, a voice filled the air. It wasn't spoken aloud, but reverberated directly in their minds. The tone was calm, deliberate, yet deeply alien. "Welcome, humans," the voice said. "You are the first of your kind to reach us. We have been waiting." Daniel froze. The voice was not only telepathic, but it also conveyed an emotion he couldn't quite place. Was it curiosity? Or something more? He glanced at Kara, who looked equally stunned. The voice continued, unbothered by their shock. Your journey has been long, but you have arrived at the moment of your true potential. We offer you knowledge, if you are worthy. Come, see what lies beyond the stars. A chill ran down Daniel's spine. This was no mere encounter. This was something far greater, something that could reshape humanity's place in the galaxy forever. But the question that lingered in his mind was, were they ready for what was coming? As they moved further into the structure, the walls seemed to pulse with energy, guiding them deeper into the heart of the sphere. Each step took them closer to something unimaginable, something that could change the course of human history forever. The air felt charged, as though the entire sphere was alive with possibility. With every passing moment, Daniel felt a greater sense of anticipation, mixed with fear. They were walking into the unknown, and there was no turning back now. This was only the beginning. The trial of resonance. The inner sanctum of the mysterious sphere seemed to stretch on endlessly. The walls, smooth and metallic, pulsed with an almost hypnotic rhythm, as if the very structure was alive and breathing. Daniel could feel the air growing thicker with each step, and the quiet hum of distant machinery reverberated in his chest. Kara, always the pragmatic leader, kept her senses sharp, but even she couldn't hide the spark of awe in her eyes. They continued through the winding corridors, each one leading deeper into the core of the sphere. The faint glow that lit their path began to intensify, and the air smelled faintly of ozone, as though the very atmosphere around them was charged with energy. It was then that Daniel realized that this place was not merely a vessel or a ship. It was something far more ancient and complex, a testament to the ingenuity of a civilization that had mastered technologies beyond human comprehension. Finally, they arrived at a vast chamber, its ceiling so high that it seemed to disappear into infinity. In the center stood a platform, bathed in soft light, surrounded by intricate, glowing symbols that seemed to shift and move as if they had a life of their own. There was no visible source for the light, no lamps, no machinery, but the entire room was illuminated by a serene, ethereal glow. The symbols on the ground shimmered with an energy that seemed to resonate with Daniel's very soul. "This is it," Kara said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would disturb the ancient power that filled the room. "This is what they've been waiting for." Daniel stepped forward, drawn toward the center of the platform. The voice, the one that had spoken in their minds, echoed again, but this time it was more forceful, almost like a command. "Human," the voice intoned, "step onto the platform. Your worthiness will be tested. If you succeed, you will gain knowledge beyond your species' imagination. If you fail, you will cease to exist." Daniel froze. The words rang through his mind like a bell, but the tone was not one of malice. Rather, it was matter of fact. This was not a challenge made out of cruelty or spite. It was an assessment, an inevitable process that all sentient species had to undergo before they could ascend to the next level of existence, or so it seemed. "What does it mean?" Kara asked, her voice low, the uncertainty creeping into her words. "What kind of test is this?" Daniel shook his head, unsure, but instinctively he knew that there was no turning back. If humanity was ever going to unlock the secrets of the stars, if they were ever going to prove themselves as worthy allies in the galactic community, this was the moment that would decide their fate. Without a word, Daniel stepped onto the glowing platform. The moment his foot touched the surface, the symbols around him erupted into blinding light. The energy surged through the room, and for a moment, Daniel felt as if his body was being torn apart by the force. His mind was flooded with images, too fast for him to comprehend. Strange landscapes, alien beings, technologies that defied the laws of physics. But amidst the chaos, there was one thought that anchored him: adapt, survive. The light intensified, and Daniel felt himself being pulled into a vortex of sensations. He was no longer standing in the room. He was somewhere else, someone else. His senses were overloaded as he found himself suspended in a vast, dark space, surrounded by swirling clouds of energy and stars that seemed to pulse with their own light. The sensation of weightlessness made it difficult for him to breathe, and yet he wasn't choking. The energy around him seemed to sustain him, to fuel him. "This is the trial of resonance," the voice echoed in his mind. "It is not your strength that will decide your fate, but your ability to connect with the universe itself. The fate of your species depends on it." Daniel's heart raced as the words sunk in. This wasn't just a test of physical endurance, nor was it simply an intellectual challenge. This was a trial of the spirit, one that would require him to reach deep within himself and find something that connected him to the fabric of the cosmos itself. He was being asked to understand the very nature of existence. Suddenly, the darkness parted, revealing an endless ocean of stars. But they were not just any stars. They were alive. Their light flickered like the beat of a heart, each star pulsing with its own rhythm, as if the entire galaxy were one enormous living organism. Daniel could hear the hum of the stars, a low, resonant sound that filled the space around him, vibrating in his bones. In the distance, a figure appeared, a silhouette against the backdrop of the cosmic sea. It was humanoid, but its features were obscured, cloaked in a shroud of light. The figure reached out, and as it did, Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of peace flood over him. It was as though the very essence of the figure had connected with his soul, and he knew, without a doubt, that this was no ordinary being. This was a consciousness that had transcended physical form, a being of pure energy. "Do you understand?" the figure asked, its voice a soft whisper in his mind. Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, a realization struck him. He didn't need to speak. The answer was already inside him. He reached out, and as he did, the stars responded, their light growing brighter, swirling around him like a cosmic dance. The universe was speaking to him, and for the first time in his life, Daniel understood that humanity's place in the galaxy was not just one of exploration. It was one of connection. "I understand," Daniel thought, his mind now in perfect harmony with the universe. The figure nodded, its form beginning to fade. "You have passed the trial," it said. "Now you may join the greater galactic community." Suddenly, Daniel was back in the chamber, standing on the platform, the light around him gradually fading. He blinked, disoriented, as he tried to process what had just occurred. Kara stood at the edge of the room, watching him with an unreadable expression. You did it?" Kara asked, her voice a mix of disbelief and awe. Daniel nodded slowly. "I think so. I connected with something beyond us." The voice spoke again, this time from the sphere itself. "Humanity has passed the trial of resonance. Your species is ready to join the galactic community. Welcome, traveler of the stars." The chamber hummed with energy, and for the first time, Daniel felt a sense of true purpose. Humanity was no longer just a young species in the cosmos. They were now part of something far greater, a network of beings that spanned the stars. This was just the beginning, the awakening of unity. The revelation of the trial of resonance had left Daniel with more questions than answers. As he stepped off the glowing platform, the weight of what had just happened began to settle on him. The hum of the sphere around them seemed to grow louder, almost as if it were aware of their presence, aware of their newfound place in the universe. It felt as though the very walls were alive, resonating with the energy they had just unlocked. Kara, who had been waiting patiently by the entrance, approached him slowly, her eyes searching his face for any sign of change. "What happened?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with urgency. She had seen the way Daniel had reacted during the trial, his body shaking, his eyes wide with a mix of awe and confusion. "Are you all right?" Daniel didn't know how to explain it. Words seemed inadequate to describe what he had experienced, the cosmic understanding that had flooded his mind in an instant. But he knew one thing for sure. Humanity was no longer just another species trying to carve out a place among the stars. They were something more now, something greater. "I'm changed," Daniel said slowly, his voice distant. "I can feel the universe in ways I never could before. It's like I'm connected to everything. Every star, every planet, every being. We're all a part of something much larger than we ever imagined." Kara regarded him for a moment, her brow furrowing with concern. "And you think the rest of humanity is ready for this, to understand what you've just learned?" "I don't know," Daniel admitted, "but I think we have to be. The galaxy is waiting for us to join them. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about unity, about being part of something bigger than ourselves." As if on cue, the voice that had guided them earlier reverberated in their minds once more, its tone calm and filled with an ancient wisdom. "Humanity has proven its worth, but the true challenge is yet to come. To join the galactic community is not simply a privilege. It is a responsibility. You must awaken your people, for the trials you have faced are but the beginning." Daniel's heart quickened at the sound of the voice. The weight of its words hung in the air, unspoken but clear. There was no going back now. Humanity's place in the universe was no longer a question, it was a reality. But what did that mean for them? What responsibility came with this newfound status? "What does that mean?" Kara asked, echoing Daniel's thoughts. "What's next?" "Next," the voice said, "you must return to your homeworld. You must share the knowledge you have gained, but more importantly, you must teach your people to resonate with the universe as you have. Only then will humanity be ready to take its place among the stars." The room fell silent as the gravity of the task before them settled in. Daniel's mind raced. He thought about Earth, about the people who lived there, the scientists, the politicians, the everyday citizens who struggled to make sense of their place in the world. How could he, one person, possibly convince them that humanity had to evolve, that they had to awaken to a higher consciousness? "How do we teach them?" Daniel asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. "How do we make them understand?" "You will not do it alone," the voice replied. "The resonance you have achieved is not unique to you. It is a potential within all of humanity. But to awaken this potential, you must lead. You must inspire. And most importantly, you must show them the power of unity. This is not a task for one. It is a task for all." Daniel turned to Kara, his thoughts spinning. He had always been a leader in his own right, but the scope of this mission was unlike anything he had ever faced. This wasn't just about exploration or technology. This was about changing the very foundation of human existence, about awakening humanity to the possibility of something beyond the physical world. "I don't know how to do that," Daniel confessed, the weight of the responsibility sinking deeper with each passing moment. "How do we inspire the entire human race to evolve?" "You don't need to have all the answers," the voice said gently. "You only need to show them the way. The path will unfold as you walk it. Trust in your instincts, in your humanity." A moment of silence passed as Daniel processed the magnitude of what was being asked of him. The weight of it all was overwhelming, but something inside him stirred. The universe had given him a glimpse of its vastness, its interconnectedness, and in that moment, he realized that the only way forward was together. Humanity had always been at its best when it worked as one, when it overcame its divisions and united for a greater cause. "I'll do it," Daniel said finally, his voice steady. "I'll lead them." Kara nodded, her face resolute. "Then let's go home." The voice spoke one final time before they left the chamber. "You are not alone. Others will join you. Your species is not the only one awakening, but you are the first. Go now and teach the universe what humanity is capable of." As they turned to leave, the light from the platform faded, and the hum of the sphere began to quiet. It felt like the entire structure was bowing to them, acknowledging their readiness for the next phase. They were not just visitors anymore. They were now a part of something much larger than themselves. As the exit doors slid open, the crew of the Exodus stood at the threshold of a new era. The stars were no longer distant and cold. They were beckoning, waiting for humanity to take its place among them. The journey home would be long, but it was no longer a journey of uncertainty. It was a journey of destiny. Humanity had awakened to its true potential, and the galaxy was waiting. The call to humanity. The journey back to Earth was filled with tension and anticipation. As the Exodus soared through the vast emptiness of space, Daniel sat alone in his quarters, staring out at the stars. The quiet hum of the ship's engines was the only sound, a gentle reminder that they were still on their way home. But everything had changed. The knowledge that he had gained, the understanding of humanity's true potential, pulsed through his thoughts. How could he possibly convey this to billions of people on Earth? How could he explain that humanity wasn't just a species trying to survive? It was part of something much grander, a universe teeming with possibilities. He could still hear the voice in his mind, calm and steady, reminding him of his purpose. You are the first. Others will follow, but you must lead them. The enormity of the task pressed down on him, but it also filled him with a sense of urgency. Earth needed to know, needed to understand. The message wasn't just one of exploration. It was a call to awakening. The future of humanity depended on it. Daniel had always believed in human potential, in the ability of people to rise above challenges. But what he had learned on that alien sphere had shattered his previous understanding of human limits. Humanity was capable of much more than survival. It was capable of unity, creativity, and an understanding of the universe that could change everything. But first, they had to open their minds to the possibility. The awakening. As they neared Earth, Kara approached Daniel in his quarters. The captain had been just as quiet during the journey back, but she could sense the shift in him. She had watched him during the trial of resonance, seen the way his demeanor had changed, the way his eyes seemed to shine with a new understanding. She, too, was feeling the weight of what lay ahead. "Daniel," Kara said, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, but there was a note of worry beneath it. "We're almost home. What's your plan? How are we going to make them believe this?" Daniel turned to face her, the worry in her eyes matching his own. "I don't know. It's one thing to understand it myself, but explaining it, convincing the rest of humanity that they're ready for this, it's going to take more than words." "I've seen the way you've changed," Kara said, her voice soft but firm. "You're not the same person who left Earth. You've seen something out there, something that none of us can comprehend yet. But we can't carry that knowledge alone. We have to share it." Daniel nodded. "I know, but how do we convince Earth to listen? To embrace something so vast?" Kara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked to the window, gazing out at the blue orb that was growing larger in the distance. "Earth. Home. We've always been a species that takes risks," Kara said finally. "We've reached for the stars before, but this is different. We can't afford to be afraid anymore. The universe is calling, and it's up to us to answer." Daniel felt the truth in her words. The universe wasn't just a backdrop to their struggles. It was alive. It was waiting for humanity to step forward. But it wasn't just about technological progress or military might. It was about something far more powerful: understanding, connection, unity. Humanity had always been at its best when it came together for a common purpose. This was that purpose. "We need to find a way to reach them," Daniel said, his voice filled with resolve. "But we need to do it carefully. If we just tell them everything at once, they won't be ready. We have to help them awaken, just as I did." Kara turned from the window and looked at him, her eyes fierce. "Then we start small. We find the leaders, the thinkers, the people who can help guide the rest. We show them the truth, and together, we'll lead humanity into this new era." Daniel stood up and walked over to her, his thoughts racing. "You're right. It has to start with a few. But we need to make sure they understand what's at stake. This isn't just a discovery. It's a chance for humanity to evolve, to take its place among the stars. The Exodus had finally entered Earth's orbit, the blue planet shining with familiar warmth. But nothing felt the same. The planet below seemed small now, almost fragile in the face of what they had learned. And yet there was something humbling about it, too. This was the cradle of their species, the place where it all began. A plan for the future. Back on Earth, the news of the Exodus's return would soon spread. There were already whispers among the scientific community, rumors of the strange signal that had been intercepted and the mysterious alien sphere that had welcomed them. But Daniel knew that mere whispers wouldn't be enough. They needed to act quickly. The first step was clear. He would need to meet with the world's leaders, the brightest minds in science, politics, and philosophy. They would be the ones who could help him spread the message. But this wouldn't be a simple meeting. Daniel couldn't just walk into a conference room and tell them everything that had happened. He couldn't simply show them the alien technology or the data they had gathered. What they needed was a vision of what humanity could become, a vision that would spark their imaginations and ignite a desire for unity. But how would he convey that vision? How would he make them see what he had seen? The universe was full of infinite possibilities, but humanity had to be willing to take the first step. "I'll start with the United Nations," Daniel said, his voice growing more confident. "They're the ones who can help us bring the world together. If we can convince them, we can reach the rest." Kara nodded, but there was still hesitation in her eyes. "And what if they don't believe you? What if they refuse to listen?" Daniel paused, considering the question. "Then we'll show them. Actions speak louder than words, and we have something far more powerful than just stories. We have the truth." The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be resistance, doubt, and fear. But Daniel knew one thing for certain. Humanity had already taken its first step. The trial had been passed. The universe had called. And now it was time for humanity to rise. The Exodus descended through the atmosphere, heading toward the capital of the United Nations. Daniel knew that the moment he set foot on Earth again, his life would change forever. And with it, the course of human history, the seeds of change. The world below was a blur of motion and color as the Exodus descended into Earth's atmosphere. Daniel stood at the observation window, his thoughts heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. He had passed the trial of resonance, connected with the cosmos itself, and returned with knowledge that could change everything. But how would Earth react? Could humanity, fractured and often divided, rise to meet its true potential? Beside him, Kara stood quietly, her gaze also fixed on the planet below. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound in the room, a constant reminder that they were returning to the world they had left behind. But now, that world seemed distant. The universe had opened up to them. And Earth, for all its beauty, seemed small, contained within its own borders. The stars had called to them, and Daniel had heard their invitation clearly. "What happens if they don't understand?" Kara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if they resist the change?" Daniel turned to face her, his expression resolute. "Then we show them. We demonstrate what we've learned. This isn't about belief anymore. It's about unity, understanding, and connection. We can't let fear stop us from evolving. Humanity has always been at its best when it works together." The ship broke through the clouds, and the sprawling cityscapes of New York City came into view, shimmering in the late afternoon light. For the first time since the mission had started, Daniel felt a deep sense of urgency. Earth was on the brink of something monumental, but whether they would seize the opportunity or fall back into the cycles of division and distrust was still uncertain. As the Exodus touched down at a secured government facility, a fleet of armored vehicles surrounded the landing zone, and armed guards lined the perimeter. The governments of Earth had been notified of the ship's arrival, but no one knew exactly what to expect. Daniel knew the eyes of the world would soon be on him. The weight of humanity's future pressed against him like a physical force. He stepped out of the airlock, his boots hitting the tarmac with a solid thud. Kara followed closely behind, her presence a reassuring constant. The moment they emerged from the ship, the world seemed to hold its breath. The air was thick with anticipation, and Daniel could sense the tension around him. Government officials, scientists, military leaders, and reporters, all waiting for a sign of what was to come. "Mr. Wright," a voice called, cutting through the silence. It was the United Nations Secretary General, Maya Reyes, a woman who had spent her life negotiating peace and diplomacy across the globe. Her eyes were sharp, filled with intelligence and curiosity. "We've been briefed on your mission. Please, tell us what you've discovered." Daniel looked around at the sea of faces, all expectant, all waiting for answers. He knew the moment had come to speak, not just to them, but to all of humanity. The decision he made here would echo through history. He cleared his throat and stepped forward. "What we've discovered isn't just new technology or alien life," he began, his voice steady but filled with passion. "What we found is a new way of understanding ourselves and our place in the universe. We've connected with something larger than us, something that has been waiting for humanity to awaken. We've passed a test, not of strength, but of resonance. We've learned that the universe isn't a cold, indifferent expanse. It's a living, breathing entity that we are all connected to." The room fell silent as Daniel's words echoed through the space. Maya Reyes stepped forward, her face a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "You're suggesting that humanity is connected to the universe itself, that we can resonate with the cosmos?" "Yes," Daniel said, his voice growing stronger. "We are all part of a greater whole. The knowledge I've gained isn't just for us to hoard or to use for power. It's for humanity to evolve, to transcend the divisions that have held us back for so long. We're not just individuals. We're not just nations. We are all part of a living, interconnected web of existence." Maya raised an eyebrow, her skepticism palpable. "And how do we prove this? How do we show the world that what you're saying is real?" Daniel took a deep breath. "The first step is simple: unity. We need to put aside our differences. We need to embrace the potential of humanity, not just as individuals, but as a collective force for good. The technology, the knowledge we've gained, it's not about domination or control. It's about understanding. It's about connection." He paused for a moment, allowing his words to sink in. The room was still, everyone waiting for the next step, the next piece of the puzzle. But Daniel knew that the time for talking was over. Action was required. "I'm not the only one who's seen this," Daniel continued. "We're all capable of this connection. Humanity just needs to be guided. We need leaders, people who can show the rest of the world what's possible when we come together." Maya studied him carefully, her expression unreadable. "And you're asking us to trust you, to believe in this connection you've discovered?" "I'm not asking you to believe me," Daniel said. "I'm asking you to believe in humanity's potential, to believe that we are capable of change, of evolution. If we can unite, if we can come together as a species, then the universe itself will open up to us." The room was still again, as though everyone present was weighing the words Daniel had spoken. He could feel the weight of their judgment, the uncertainty hanging in the air. But there was something else, too. Something in the way the light hit their faces, something in the way they held their breath. It was the first stirrings of hope. The Secretary General finally nodded. "We'll need time to process this, Daniel. But I think I speak for many when I say that your words, your vision, they have the power to change everything." Daniel felt a spark of hope ignite within him. It wasn't much, but it was a start. It was a seed. And every change, no matter how great, began with a single step. The resistance. The days following Daniel's return to Earth were a blur of press conferences, closed-door meetings, and the weight of the world's expectations pressing on his shoulders. The message he carried was monumental, but the reception was mixed. While many were inspired by his vision of humanity's unity with the cosmos, there were others, powerful factions, both political and economic, who viewed his words as a threat to their control, to their understanding of reality, to the very foundations upon which their power had been built. The United Nations had issued a preliminary statement acknowledging Daniel's discovery, urging the global community to consider the potential of this new era. But the message was careful, restrained. Earth's governments were still hesitant to act fully on the knowledge that humanity's place in the galaxy could change in an instant. Daniel found himself facing not only skepticism, but also outright resistance. Corporations with deep ties to military industries were already lobbying against the notion that humanity could transcend its traditional reliance on power and resources. They feared that the unification Daniel spoke of would dismantle the systems that had made them so powerful. But Daniel was undeterred. He had seen something that could transform humanity, and he would not back down. The voices of doubt and fear were loud, but they did not resonate with the truth he had learned. If humanity were to evolve, it would require more than just scientific breakthroughs. It would require a change in consciousness, a shift in the way people saw themselves and their world. The first signs of dissent. A week after the meeting with the United Nations, Daniel received a message, a simple, encrypted email from an anonymous source. It was short, direct, and chilling. "We know what you're planning. Humanity is not ready for this. You will be stopped." At first, Daniel dismissed it as an idle threat. After all, he had expected resistance. But as the days passed, he began to notice signs that suggested the message wasn't just a bluff. The news had started to shift. Media outlets began questioning the credibility of his mission. Whispers of his alien encounter spread like wildfire, painting him as a madman, a puppet of extraterrestrial forces. Public opinion was turning, and fast. Daniel convened a private meeting with the core members of the Exodus crew. Kara, of course, was there, as was Dr. Nathaniel Holt, the ship's chief scientist, and Elena Ward, a linguist who had helped decode the alien signals. They had all experienced the trial with him and shared in the knowledge he had gained. But now, they were facing a new challenge: the powerful forces that sought to suppress the truth. "I don't need to tell you what's happening," Daniel said as they gathered in the secure room. "The media is turning against us. Governments are questioning our story. And now this message. I think they're coming for us." Dr. Holt adjusted his glasses and looked at the data displayed on the screen. "There's been an uptick in classified military activity, and I'm afraid it's not just the governments who are involved. There are corporations with deep interests in space exploration, weaponization. If they think our knowledge threatens their profits, they'll do anything to stop us." Elena nodded grimly. "And let's not forget about the public. There's a growing movement. People who think what we're doing is dangerous. They believe we're tampering with forces beyond our understanding. It's not just the powerful, they have supporters." Kara looked directly at Daniel. "You've seen the truth, Daniel. You know what humanity is capable of. But can you convince them? Can you convince the world to wake up to this new reality, even if it means fighting against the very forces that built our current systems?" Daniel sighed, feeling the weight of the question. "I don't know, but I'm not backing down. Humanity needs this. It's not just about technology or power. It's about unity. It's about transcending our old ways of thinking. We can't keep living in the same cycles of fear and division." The room fell silent as everyone processed his words. They all knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about convincing politicians or the media. It was about confronting the deep-rooted fears and mistrust that humanity had built over centuries. A shift in tactics. The crew knew that they couldn't simply rely on speeches and diplomacy. The time for that had passed. If humanity was going to embrace this new way of thinking, they had to see it for themselves. They had to experience the interconnectedness, the resonance Daniel had felt on the alien sphere. It wasn't enough to just explain it. They needed to show it. Daniel made a decision. He would take the message directly to the people. No more relying on intermediaries. No more waiting for political approval or media endorsements. He would create a broadcast, a global transmission, seen by everyone, everywhere. The signal would be sent across all frequencies, reaching every corner of the globe. It would show humanity the truth, and it would allow them to experience, if only for a moment, the resonance that Daniel had felt in the alien sphere. "I'll be the one to speak," Daniel said, his voice firm. "But we'll need a network, people who believe in this, who can help us broadcast this message." Alina, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I have contacts. I can tap into underground networks, people who understand what we're trying to do, and will help us circumvent the mainstream media." "Good," Kara said. "We'll need everything we can get. This isn't just about presenting the facts anymore. It's about showing them, giving them a glimpse of what we've seen. We need to make them feel the connection, the resonance." Daniel's mind raced as he thought about the logistics. The broadcast would take time to organize, but it was their only hope of breaking through the growing resistance. He knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be pushback. The corporations, the governments, the media, they would fight to suppress the truth. But he also knew that once humanity saw what they had seen, once they felt that shift, there would be no going back. The decision was made. It was time to act. A moment of truth. As they began preparing the broadcast, Daniel felt a strange sense of calm. This was the moment that would define humanity's future, and though he couldn't predict the outcome, he knew it was the only way forward. The truth was out there, and it would be up to the people to decide what to do with it. The resistance had already started, but Daniel would not let fear win. The time for division had passed. Humanity's evolution depended on one thing: unity. And he would lead them into it, whether they were ready or not.